And the shutdowns in our country, with farming, with everything, industries. I mean, industries, trucking companies, such as mine, around 20 to 30,000 per month are closing their doors at this point. Big companies that have been around for 50, 60 years have shut their doors over the last couple of years. It's getting really, really hard to exist anymore.
Hi, I'm Kaiser Johnson with Liquidating Finance, and this is the Miles Franklin Weekly Special for September 27th through October 4th, 2022. This week we feature two different silver sovereigns while supplies last. First, 2022 silver maples, which will likely be the last maple to feature Queen Elizabeth II. Made by the Royal Canadian Mint, the silver maple is 4 nines fine and was the first silver coin made to that exemplary purity. It comes in tubes of 25, monster boxes of 500, and is available for $6.75 over spot. Our second special is the Silver Philharmonic. Made in Austria with a face value of €1.50, the Philharmonic is the most popular silver bullion coin in Europe and frequently regarded as the most beautiful silver sovereign currently made. It's available at $5.35 over spot. All our specials this week are IRA eligible, and if you'd like to learn more about a precious metals IRA, call us, and we'll be happy to help you in that process. Our number for all orders is 1-888-81-LIBERTY. That's 1-888-815-4237. We're available after hours and on weekends, and we look forward to speaking with you.
Welcome back to Liberty and Finance. We're delighted to have a first-time guest today. This individual I met over the phone, and we've been talking about some of his experiences. He's both a rancher and a trucker, and in the state of Oklahoma, together with his wife, they've been operating these multiple small businesses and struggling greatly under the duress of the conditions that we've been impacted by over the last few years. And our guest's name is James Howell, again, both a rancher and a trucker. He's going to share with us what's going on the ground in those two industries as experienced by a small business owner who's well connected with what's happening in those industries so that we can have a glimpse of what's coming our way that we're not going to be hearing about necessarily from this angle on the evening news. If we want to know what's really happening, we're talking to people who are experiencing it directly. James, thanks for joining us on Liberty and Finance.
Thank you, Dunnigan. Well, let me first by going back just a couple years. Prior to this COVID, my wife and I were operating a 5-truck and trailer trucking company and a small ranch. And we do what we normally do in the trucking industry. We had contracts. We were doing pretty good. Each truck was grossing about, $380,000 to $420,000 a year per truck, which is about average for what we do in the industry, and which gives us about a 2% profit margin every year. Since the COVID started, we had issues in the beginning, contracts canceling on us, the whole 9 yards, and which a lot of companies experience at the same time. And ever since then, it's just been a downturn and a downturn and a downturn. Well, when President Biden came into office, day one, he just slammed us, starting with fuel prices going up, and we're paying, double the amount of fuel prices, which we have to pass that cost on to, our brokers, our customers, just to be able to stay afloat. We cannot operate in the negative. Well, we struggled along for quite a few years. Contracts started busting up. Rates started going down. And we've had to sell off our company down to 1 truck, which we are at now. And the last few months, since April of this year, with fuel prices and freight rates going down so much, we are losing around $15,000 a month between the two hitting us. Plus our expenses going up, maintenance, the whole 9 yards. People don't understand that trucking is not a very profitable business. You've got to love the industry to stay in this industry, which I have been in for 33 years now. And this company we own for now going on 21 years. And we are in the means, or right now, looking at shutting the doors sometime in December, unless things change, which I don't expect. And while all this is going on, of course, we've had to lay off employees, and get rid of equipment. And what we did notice, and what I've been focusing on, is like programs like you have and Liberty and Finance, the stock market, the money going on around the world, everything that's been going on, and the shutdowns in our country, with farming, with everything, industries. I mean, industries, trucking companies, such as mine, around 20 to 30,000 per month are closing their doors at this point. Big companies that have been around for 50, 60 years have shut their doors over the last couple of years. It's getting really, really hard to exist anymore. So to put it in a nutshell, we have been scrambling, my wife and I, for the last few months. We made some major decisions. We went ahead and paid off our ranch, so we owe it free and clear. We had to sell back a lot of our equipment that we had purchased in 2020 and go back to our old equipment and try to get it back and running again to operate our ranch, which is costing us a lot. But, in the long run, we won't have payments and things like that, so we can hopefully survive the crash that's coming. Now, our biggest fear that we have is the fact that we see the stock market crashing. I'm going to let you know up front, my wife and I have never invested in the stock market, bonds, nothing. We've always invested in gold and silver throughout the years. And, of course, prepping and keeping ourselves, with a hefty stock of, food, water, things like that, things that you're going to need that in the upcoming events that are coming our way that we think that's going to happen, So to play us in a nutshell, the prices everybody sees at the grocery stores are going to double and triple again. I'm figuring another double by the end of this year and then tripling by next year. That's the big reason why, is because there's not going to be a lot of us on the road to be able to haul this anymore. All the freight that we haul to grocery stores, to distributors, do things like that, because it's just impossible. If I'm a small business that owns my equipment, I have no financing on my equipment, and we're losing that kind of money. Imagine people that have, trailer payments, truck payments, which could average, $3,000 or $4,000 a month for payments per unit, and that's a hefty expense. The thing is that we see in ranching, like my wife just called me this morning, we made another order of supplemental feed, and she said it just went up another $200 from 2 months ago. It has been going up steadily since the beginning of this year. Every time we make an order, it keeps going up. We are now looking at almost 42% hike on our feed costs alone just this year. And because of what we do, let me explain this a little bit. We are breeders for Cooney Coon pigs and Idaho pasture pigs. We are registered. We're registered with the FDA, and it is a great responsibility to keep the bloodlines pure so you have no birth defects and all kinds of issues with mixing bloods, inbreeding, the whole 9 yards. And it takes a lot of money, vet checks, blood checks, if you're shipping them out of state. There's all kinds of regulations that are on us because of this. And we normally sell to small homesteaders because of the way our pigs are. They're grass feeders. They don't tear up your property as much. They take a little bit longer to grow out, but, it's a good investment. They are not cheap, but we are finding now that we can't even sell our litters that we have. 2 months ago, we had to do a massive sale, and each pig usually goes about $550, depending on the bloodline. We were getting rid of them at $50 a piece because of the feed costs. And it looks like we're going to have to do that again. Now, that means another loss for us on the ranching side. Normally, our ranch is a small ranch. It normally, bringing about 50,000 a year. Our normal cost is about 20,000 a year. And this year we've sold about $7,000 worth of pigs. We also do free-range chickens, free-range chicken eggs. Now we are, making a lot of money on our eggs, and we cannot even keep them in stock at this point. But at $3 a dozen, you have to sell a lot of eggs, to make up the difference that you're losing. We also do goats and goat's milk, and we're pretty steady on that. That's an up and down thing. But all in all, what we're seeing is with the collapse of fertilizer, the collapse of feed, the collapse of everything, it's affecting us directly. Us small ranchers, we cannot, exist when we have to pay all these exorbitant amounts to sustain ourselves, to sustain our ranch and our farm, whatever you have, because you're not able to get rid of it and sell it at the price you need to sustain it yourself. You can only run in the negative for so long before you have to do something drastic. And that's what we've been doing the last few months. We have been watching the downfall of everything, the stock market, the money, what's going on overseas with, the BRICS nations getting out of the dollar, which is making our inflation rates go up. People have no idea, I don't think, out here what's actually coming to hit them. Since we're in the business end of it, we see it first. People don't understand. The trucking, we see things 90 days prior to you guys. The general public does, let's put it that way. So we know 90 days prior when there's a recession getting ready to hit. It has been this way since I've been in the industry, since my grandfather was in the industry. We always know prior because we get the cost hit on us first. We know the freights out here. We know the lanes that are open and closing. We know the businesses that are closing and, and everything that goes on if you're paying attention to what you're doing, which you can't run a business unless you know exactly what's going on out there because you have to do constant changing to stay afloat. And that's even in good times. You always got to be willing and able to change. Well, we're gotten to the point where we can't change anymore. We have been over the markets. We have been over the let me say that the way we get our freight now, prior to COVID, is on what's called a spot market or a spot board. Basically, it's a bunch of brokers put their loads out there on the internet, and we go through and look to see where we're at, what loads are available in our area, and try to get a price that we need to haul. Now, at current fuel prices, we need $3 a mile to stay afloat and to bring a little bit of profit in. Right now, the average load is going for $2.38 a mile. Some places lower, some places, but that's the average. So, we're losing, 62 cents a mile. It does not take long for that to start eating it into your bottom pocket. I mean, when you have a minimum or a break-even point, which we know what our break-even point is, which is $2.80 a mile, and we're not even achieving that. So we're going in the negative. Like I said, we've been doing that since April. All of a sudden, April of this year, it's just like you woke up one morning, you got on the load boards, what we call them, looking around for freight to get yourself going and haul a load, and nothing. And the rates just dropped from 3 days earlier. At $3 a mile down to $1.20 a mile at that time. I mean, and it's been slowly climbing up. But, and we're still battling, with them. We got people calling us wanting us to haul freight at $1.80 a mile. We just can't do it. It's cheaper for me to just sit around and do nothing than to make my truck move. Because the maintenance cost on a truck and trailer is about $24,000 a year. I know that may sound high, but that's what it is. That's the average nationwide for a truck and trailer, one unit. And our cost on that end has gone up. My tires, I just put tires on this truck, cost me $122 per tire more than it was, a year earlier. So, everything is going up. Prices are dropping. And because of that, people like me are going to be going out of business even more and more, which means there's going to be less and less on the market, less and less on your grocery shelves, in your clothing stores, and your whatever store you can name, because there is nothing in this country that does not touch a truck at least 10 times. People don't understand that. Products that you see on the shelf have been on a truck at least 10 times to get it to that market. Any questions you want to ask me there, Mr. Duncan?
Well, one of the things that's not obvious to people who are in the consumer end of this food chain, if they see prices going up, they see, how can it be possible that the ranchers are having to liquidate their herds at pennies on the dollar when the prices at the retail side are higher than ever? So people are saying, why isn't it boom time for the ranchers, for example, or you could say the same for truckers or whatever, is how is it that in the face of all of the input costs being so high, fuel, parts, repairs, everything, how is it that the what you can get for it, the output for your work, for your labor, for your ranching, for your trucking is low? Can you help to connect the dots for people on how that's possible?
Okay, how this is possible. All right, basically you could think of, like, in the trucking industry and ranchers, we are middle people, okay? As far as trucking goes, we are the connection between the producer and or what we call the shipper and the customer. Okay, we're the middle person. Now they call up the brokers or whatever, and they decide a contract or a price for each load or whatever. Now, at that time, what's going on now is because there is a lack of that freight, and there are more trucks on the road than there is freight. So what that does is these brokers fight over the lowest price that they could get, and they think they could get it moved to get it from the original shipper to get moved. And that's what our biggest problem is now. Even though we're losing all these trucks, there's still more of them out here than there is freight. That's how bad the economy has gone down.
Yeah. So if I understand correctly, then it's the supply constraints in our economy that means that there's less freight to be moved, and therefore there's this glut of capacity to move it, and therefore that's driving down the rates for the truckers. I guess the same question would apply for ranchers. How is it possible that if food is so expensive at the grocery store that ranchers can't get top dollar for their herds or their flocks?
Well, there's a lot of reasons for that too. Unlike us, there's a lot of ranchers like my neighbors who are a lot of cattle ranchers. That's what I got around me. The people don't understand that ranchers are getting pennies on the pound for their meat. And there's a reason for it, because basically they're getting gouged from the processing plants, which are making massive money, 300% markup once it leaves their plant. So the ranchers are getting left out in the cold. There's always been this way. It's always been a racket, and people don't understand that. That's why I told you earlier when we talked that to do ranching, you've got to love it. Now, there are big ranches out there, but they're contracted with a lot of these processing plants, and they're far and few between. Most are small ranchers that have to take their cattle down a few at a time, sell them at auction, and then they get, then the processing plants come and pick them up, fatten them up and then process them. You got that. Then you got our costs, okay, on top of that. You've got all the other costs that's naturally built in, fuel, transportation, all that cost has to go on top of that. And so that's basically it's like they've been doing with us drivers in small companies, that we take the short end of the stick to get the stuff moved. And same thing with ranchers. They take the short end of the stick to get their stuff to the market. That's just the way it is. It always has been that way. It's just gotten so much worse, on top of it. Plus, their costs have gone up just like my costs have with feed. They can't get feed, and like in Texas lately, in Oklahoma with the heat. There's no water. There is, all kinds of things going on that are affecting the costs. And ranchers are now having to liquidate because they cannot afford the feed costs. Just like I can't, they can't either. Imagine a 1,000 head dairy farm that has to feed every day to get milk, and your costs go up 42%, but yet your milk prices to sell them to the refineries have not gone up. And that's where the disconnect is at, is that everybody's trying to save as much as they can. And at the end person, where everything starts is where who basically, take it in the shorts. I mean, that's about as plain as I can say it. It's a dog world out here, and it always has been. But with everything, it's just a combination of things that are just everything hitting us at once right now. I mean, with all the shutdowns, with all the lack of everything, it's you pull your hair out every morning and you try to pray to God and to see what's going to happen, but you never know. It's that bad.
One of the outcomes that you can see if you back away far enough from these trees and you see the whole forest is a consolidation. You mentioned 20 to 30,000 small trucking companies going out of business per month. There's also huge numbers of family farms and so on that are being liquidated. And at the same time, we hear news stories about billionaires and foreign companies in foreign countries and huge big agri firms buying up these distressed operations. And it seems that what we've seen before, we saw this in the Great Depression of the 1930s, looks like we're seeing it again. And that's a consolidation into fewer and fewer and a concentration of fewer and fewer hands. People who back away even farther from that look at some of those driving factors that you mentioned that are conspiring together to make this distressful situation. We've interviewed Wayne Jett, the author of The Fruits of Graft, Great Depressions Then and Now. He did an analysis of how the government actions, FDR and others in the Great Depression actually caused to worsen, lengthen, deepen, and prolong the Great Depression and to increase its painful impact on American farmers and families and so on. It's fair to ask the question is, how can this be not only permitted to go on in this way, but is there in fact a intentionality? Is there in fact a desired outcome that is in fact playing out exactly as it was intended to by design, this consolidation, this inevitable consolidation of assets, whether it's ranches, business activities, etc., into fewer and fewer hands? Do you have any perspective on that from your conversations with others in the industry that you've participated in?
Yeah, that's exactly right, Dunnigan. We all feel that it's being done on purpose. It is being done to drive out the small business institutions in this country. They want everything controlled by the big banks, the big investors, because you control the food, you control the water, you control the fuel, you control the country, you control the people. They will have to do what you say when you say it, and it's been going on for years. It's just getting worse. They are taking advantage of everything that's going on, and they are pushing it and pushing it, and I don't see any way out of it. As a matter of fact, I see our stock market being tanking, cranky, not crashing, collapsing, completely collapsing. And when that does, as you know, the credit market is going to dry up. I mean, we have to run on a week by week fuel credit. Okay. So we charge our fuel, we pay it weekly, but we only don't get paid for the loads we haul until after we deliver it, 2 to 3 days later. So everything's done on credit. When I can't afford to buy fuel or they shut that off, there's nothing going to be hauled. Big companies, small companies, we all run on credit. Every business that I know of runs on credit. There's very few that do not run on credit. So, when that gets hit, I don't even know exactly what's going to happen. when that is. All I do know is that we will be out of business. Whether my ranch can sustain itself, I don't know, because we can't find anybody to even purchase. Nobody has money anymore. Nobody has any discretionary funds. I heard was yesterday or this morning that people are taking out loans, short-term loans, just to buy groceries. I've never heard of that before, but I guess it's been going on. I mean, if they're doing that now, imagine what's going to happen, in a month or two when the stock market goes. So I think it's been done on intention, on purpose. That's why I went ahead and paid off our ranch. I will do whatever it takes to keep that ranch. So, I seen this coming. I seen this coming last year, and we have been preparing since last year. Whether I've done enough, that'll be remain to see. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. It sounds like what you've done is you've pared back operations that are less profitable. You're focusing more on operations where you can still eke out a margin and be sustainable there. I guess that's what I was going to ask you. If you have specific strategies that you can suggest to people, whether they're in farming, ranching, trucking, or just in general, what are the general principles, the underlying principles that you're leaning on that are guiding you to the actions you're taking to increase your family's resilience?
Well, the best thing I can say is first sit down, look at your books. Look at your expenses. If you have anything that you are paying for that is not a direct necessity to either business, trucking or ranching, get rid of it. Get rid of it right now, because you're not going to be able to get rid of it in a little while. I don't care if it's equipment, whatever. You can always find used equipment. You can always, downsize. You don't have to have the best of everything. You don't have to have the prettiest of everything, as long as it's functional. Start there first. Get rid of all credit. If you can go cash, go cash. Pay off everything you can pay off, and do not go back to it. That is the only way we have survived these last few months. We've taken almost every dime we had to do this, but this is the only thing I can suggest is you got to get rid of those expenses, because a lot of people don't understand it. They look at their finances, that there are a lot of things in there that you do not need. They are wants, but not needs. And we are in that time in this country, in this world, that it's a need, or a need only, not a want. You have to determine what it is, and it's going to take sacrifice. My wife and I had brand spanking new, Ford, 150s and 250s for the ranches, and we sold them back. Ford bought them back for us. We washed out on one, made a little money on the other, and we went ahead and we had a couple older ones that were needing work, a 95 and a 2003, and we got them both back running again. Took us some money, but they're back on. They're dependable. We had thought at that time that in 2020 that we were sustainable again. That it was time to go ahead and purchase some new equipment for the ranch. Well, 4 months ago I sold those back, because I knew that this was coming. My wife didn't like it, but we have been in business a long time, and we've had some hard times, during Obama's years, and this is 100 times worse. This is I can't even believe how much worse it is than under President Obama. We thought it was bad then. This is bad. So those are my advices. You got to get rid of your stuff that you do not need. Period.
A real key point you mentioned that went by pretty quickly there, so I want to zero in on it, was you talked about doing that sooner is essential. When you said you may not be able to do it later, that wasn't obvious, but I think I got the gist of what you're saying, is that when you have these assets that are of value, and there's still enough of a functioning economy and enough people out there who could still, like a dealer who's willing to pay you pretty good money to buy that back, this is a moment of opportunity. This is a window of opportunity to release those assets that you don't really vitally need in order to liquidate them now while you still can, because if you wait till be later to the party, and now the crowd or the herd has wakened up, and now there's a desperation and everybody's trying to liquidate their F-150s, 6 months from now or something, you don't want to be in that market. You want to get it done now, is what I'm hearing you say.
Right. Yes, sir. That's exactly what I'm saying. And that's exactly what we did. We even had 2 brand new tractors, an L series and an M series, and we went ahead and sold them back. They were gracious enough to buy them back from us. So we did it. That's what you got to do. It's called sacrifice, but it's called surviving. It's called living getting ready to live through what's coming. All the stuff we have and all the stuff that we've purchased off this paper money, and I call it paper money. It's not real money. It's just paper. It's an IOU that, they're coming after us for in the first place, and if you own it outright, it's going to be harder for them to take it. And you may have to, sell it to somebody to pay off some of your debt if it comes down to that. But, if you can eliminate your debt as much as possible, then you're better off. And, and I'm a very hard, staunch person on gold and silver because those are assets. Don't think of them anything other than assets. They're not to make you money. They are there to protect you, period, plain and simple. And that's, what we believe in.
Well, James, we've just scratched the surface, and it's been a pleasure for our viewers and myself to get to know you. Even this short conversation has really helped us to get some awareness of what's really going on and some solid down-to-earth thinking from somebody who's been thinking about it for a long time and taking real actions in meaningful ways to improve your resilience posture going forward. Really appreciate your sharing your stories here with us here at Liberty and Finance. Any final thoughts from you?
I appreciate it, Donegan. I really do. I hope people are listening and people are starting to figure this out. God forbid, I don't like to see anybody, go through, what's going on, and what's coming. And all I can tell you is that everybody needs to pray, and we all need to pray to God and for guidance and strength, because we're all going to need it. Other than that, I do appreciate it, and I do appreciate y'all helping me out with our purchase.
Absolutely, and just thanks for your willingness to come on short notice and share your story with our audience. We'll get this up as soon as we can and try to get the word out. We've all got to try to reach out and spread the word, because people who are overly dependent, as most are, on the mainstream channels and that sort of thing for their input of their information are getting a very inadequate preparation for what's coming, and that's why we're trying to help and reach as many people as possible, and you are part of that. James, thanks so much for being with us on Liberty and Finance.
I appreciate it, John. You have a great day.
You too.
Miles Franklin Precious Metals is one of America's oldest and most trusted bullion dealers. Miles Franklin is A+ rated and accredited by the Better Business Bureau, licensed and bonded, and has 0 complaints ever registered. Here at Liberty and Finance, we are licensed brokers with Miles Franklin. To order, simply call us, discuss your needs, and we will let you know our live inventory, prices, and availability, and lock in your order over the phone. Once your order is locked, the price is held for you regardless of market fluctuations, and the metals are reserved for you awaiting your settled payment. Within 1 business day of ordering, you will receive an email invoice detailing the order and payment instructions. Miles Franklin accepts payments by bank wire, ACH or electronic check, money order, check mailed priority mail, and cryptocurrency. The fastest forms of payment are bank wire and cryptocurrency. Upon settled payment, metals will ship out within 3 to 5 business days. You will receive tracking information via email. Domestic shipping charges are $15 for any order under 500 ounces of silver or 10 ounces of gold. For orders larger than that, domestic shipping is free. The package will be double boxed, fully insured, and labeled discreetly, with no indication of the contents inside. For your privacy, the name Miles Franklin will not even be on the package. To talk to myself, Elijah, my brother Kaiser, or my father Donegan, call 1-888-81-LIBERTY. That's 1-888-815-4237.